Welcome back here to Mountain Connections. It's now time for one of my favorite segments on the show. We're going to be speaking to our good friends from Nexus IT, and we have an addition with us today. We have CEO Earl Foote, we have Travis Gunn, the VP of Business Relations, and with us today we also have Lindsay Ivey, who is their new Director of Strategic Partners, and Lindsay brought a guest as well. How's it going, guys?
Good. Super well. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. Before we get into it, let's meet Lindsay a little bit more. Lindsay, tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been in Utah. So I grew. Oh, she's farting. Live TV, gotta love it. So I grew up in California, but I've been here for a little over 10 years.
Awesome.
So I came here with my family. I started in retail, so I was at Best Buy, and then I went into telecom for a while and kind of been helping. So it's interesting on the topic because I've been working with a lot of startups.
That's great. Yeah. That's awesome. And tell me about your role with Nexus. What are you going to be doing there specifically?
So I'm going to be trying to align the right strategic partners for them. So
Excellent.
There's a lot of, so if there's like a web dev shop, it makes sense to work with them on the IT side. So just bringing those two together.
Absolutely. So, well, that's great. Well, we're excited to have you as part of the team as well, coming on for future interviews. We were talking last time about startups. We talked a lot about the barriers to startups and kind of getting into the marketplace and the steps that you need to take, especially from an IT perspective, before things get started. But let's talk a little bit more about kind of the common missteps taken by startups when they get going. One of the biggest things, and I think it's kind of proven to be a bust, especially in the last few weeks and months, is the kind of co-working space. WeWork is a perfect example of this. And co-working spaces have been huge among millennials and new startups, and even some older companies thinking that that's probably the best move for their employees. But you guys talk about cloud and co-working spaces, and they can kind of be detrimental in a way. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, you know, we actually we support and have quite a few clients that are co-working spaces. We have nothing against them. They're really great organizations, and there's a time and place for them, right? And we've seen very mature companies that are in co-working spaces as well.
They have to use effectively, though.
Yes, absolutely. So disruptive things like co-working spaces, like bring your own device kind of policies, cloud, can make people quite lazy about cybersecurity and compliance. And give them a false sense of everything's okay, right? But when you really strip things back, particularly when you're starting up a business that is in a regulated industry that has to be compliant, if you're in healthcare, you're in retail, you're in hospitality, you're in financial services, I could go on, right?
Yeah.
But those industries, you have to be compliant. And that is far more difficult to achieve if you're working in a co-working space. If you are using a BYOD or bring your own device kind of policy, like everybody just brings their own laptop, and if it's like, oh yeah, everything we have is in the cloud, right? We just do everything in the cloud, and so we don't have to worry about anything else. That's honestly, it's the wrong mindset, and it does not make you compliant.
Let me add something. Because one of the things that you've got to realize when we think about most startups, the most important thing they own is their data, their ideas, their right. And if you are on a shared type network environment, your most important asset could be at the risk of all the other companies that are on those same networks, right? So the one thing that we would advise working in these co-working type spaces is have your own network, have your own secure connections, just separate yourself off just to the extent that it's yours. It's not something that a smart guy has the ability to take a look at.
Absolutely, especially if you're dealing with sensitive client information. If you're in the realm of finance or healthcare, anything like that, as you said, you have to be especially careful. As you're being regulated from a federal level as well, and one small misstep can lead to a very, very big problem. I mean, it's going to be hard to get the toothpaste back in the tube at that point.
I don't think it's, we have to be careful, but we were recently engaged to go into a co-working space that was having some massive IT and network challenges. And we found that there were quite a few rogue things going on by people in there. There were people that had set up honeypots, which are fake wireless access points, with the same network name or SSID so that people would connect to that. And then they are siphoning people's data off, right? Everything that you do from that point, they can see those packets, and they can decrypt the information.
And this is something where I think people, when they think about someone hacking into their personal information, they think of someone in their dark basement with a hoodie on, crunching the keyboard. But like, it's as simple as setting up a honeypot, and it could be as easy as that inside of your business. It could be happening right in front of your eyes. You have no idea that it's happening.
Don't worry, this one's fixed.
Yeah, that's good. You guys fix this one. This is where your expertise comes into play. Let's talk a little bit more about BYOD policies. Bring your own device. It's very important that obviously it's okay if you're going to have a BYOD policy in your office space, but you need to set the regulations and the groundwork like right away. You need to have everyone on the same page in terms of security from the very beginning, because all it takes is one employee not up to those standards to kind of for a major leak to happen.
Totally. So when you're looking at BYOD, and if you have to be compliant, which most industries now do have to be compliant, right? You have to have administrative control over that device. And some people are going to be sensitive about that. They don't want you to be able to have administrative control and then to be able to lock down that device so that malicious softwares can't be installed, so that you're controlling the types of activities and permissions that are given to the device. But without that, you aren't compliant. And so there's a toss-up with organizations of, okay, do we do BYOD and deal with encroaching perhaps on people's privacy and making a situation uncomfortable, or do we provide the devices and we have full administrative control of those devices?
There's a conversation that needs to take place early on, right?
Yep.
Hey, we're open to a BYOD type of an environment, but in order to do that, here's our acceptable use type policy.
Everyone has to buy into that.
Yeah, either you're in or you're out. We can provide you the equipment. We'd love to do so, or if you want to bring your own, here are the things that we have to do just to maintain security and standardization as well.
Absolutely. Another major roadblock that a lot of startups face is a lack of just available capital in the beginning stages. Tell me more about your guys' virtual chief information officer and virtual chief information security officer services. Lindsay, do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, so there's a lot of companies, and I came from this world on the revenue side for companies. So we worked with a lot of startups, and it's a two-man shop. One's pretty heavy on like the development side. One might be in sales and marketing. So it's really challenging to hire 150 to 200,000 a year CIO
executive.
Or CTO.
Yeah, any executive.
You can't afford that in those early stages. That revenue is so valuable because you're not making revenue usually.
So what exactly is a VCIO, and what can it do for a company, a small startup, especially something as small as 2 people?
Yeah, so you have your virtual CIO. So they're able to help with the design, especially if your startup is really heavy on the data side and you need help with that design, and even knowing how to monetize your data. I think a lot of companies struggle with knowing what to do with their data. And I was talking to someone the other day, and that was what their company does, is they figure out how to monetize your data. And they're saying 20% of the startups don't even realize that they're where they're going to make their money is in their data.
Wow.
So
you guys can really provide that support, almost that direction, especially for early stage startups. I think something that you guys do great as well is you help with complete IT infrastructure design if it's needed, strategic planning, as well as dealing with the regulations as you talked about, and making sure that you're staying compliant with all of those, which is very important.
Yeah, exactly. We kind of span across several different roles as an outsourced provider on a fractional basis that's that's quite inexpensive and allows startups to be able to get that help, and that's like virtual CIO, CTO, which deals with external technology design, right? So if you have something public facing, you're building an app or a platform that people are accessing. It's helping design that. CISO, so you're looking at cybersecurity and all your security policies and how you work with that, and then compliance officer as well.
That's fantastic.
So those are 4 areas where we can help startups on a day-to-day basis, and again, at a fraction of the cost of what it would cost them to hire somebody inside.
That's amazing. Where can people go to learn more about your services and get a hold of you guys as well?
NexusITC.net on the web, and locally at 435-487-9099.
Excellent. Earl, Lindsay, and Travis, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. It's very nice to meet you, Lindsay.
Nice to meet you.
And we look forward to having continued conversations with you in the future. Be sure and look them up at nexusitc.net. You can learn more information there, and I definitely encourage you to check out their services, especially if you are an up-and-coming startup. We'll be right back with much more right here on Mountain Connections.